The gavel slammed down with a resounding crack in the packed Seattle courtroom, sending a jolt through every wooden bench. Mr. Thompson, the court finds you unfit to maintain custody of your son due to your lifestyle as a gay man, the judge announced, her voice flat and final, and the words hit Nathan like a freight train, leaving him frozen in disbelief as his world crumbled around him. Eli's hand tightened around his under the table, but Nathan could barely feel it. All he saw was the smug nod from his sister Rebecca in the front row and the way little Liam, 5 years old and clutching a stuffed dinosaur, looked up at him with wide, confused eyes from the gallery. How had 5 perfect years of fatherhood collapsed into this single afternoon? Nathan stood on shaky legs as the bailiff approached, the custody papers already being signed. Outside the courthouse, the late spring rain had stopped, leaving the sidewalks gleaming under a sudden wash of sunlight that felt mocking. Eli guided him to their old Subaru, Liam between them holding both their hands like always, but the silence in the car was heavier than any argument they had ever had. "We'll fight this," Eli said quietly once they pulled into the driveway of their modest craftsman home in Ballard. Nathan nodded, but inside his chest something had already cracked open. He had spent years proving he could be the dad Liam deserved. Late-night feedings after the surrogate handed over the baby, teaching him to ride a bike in the park, showing up at preschool with homemade lunches shaped like rockets. Yet one petition from his own blood had reduced it all to lifestyle choices. That night Nathan sat on the edge of Liam's bed long after the boy had fallen asleep, the dinosaur tucked under one small arm. The room smelled of crayons and laundry detergent, the walls covered in drawings of their little family. Stick figures with 2 dads and a smiling son. Nathan traced a finger over one where he had written Daddy Nathan and Daddy Eli and me in wobbly letters. He remembered the day they decided to become fathers. It was their 7th anniversary, a picnic on Alki Beach, the Seattle skyline glittering across the water. Eli had looked at him and said, "I want to build something real with you. Kid. Our kid." Nathan had laughed through happy tears because he had wanted the same thing since the night he came out to his parents at 19 and watched his father walk out of the room without a word. Now that same father's ghost seemed to be winning from beyond the grave through Rebecca's lawsuit. The next morning Rebecca showed up at their door with a folder of evidence. Old photos of Nathan at pride parades, screenshots of social media posts where he had written about gay rights, even a printout of the surrogate contract. "It's not personal, Nate," she said, voice tight. "Liam needs stability. Mom and Dad always said a boy needs a mother figure. I'm just trying to protect him." Nathan closed the door gently but firmly, then leaned against it until his knees gave out. Eli found him there, pulled him up, and held him without saying anything for a long time. That was the first time Nathan wondered if maybe they were right. Maybe love wasn't enough when the whole system looked at him and saw only what he wasn't. The days blurred. Nathan took unpaid leave from his job at the architecture firm, spending every hour with Liam. Pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, trips to the aquarium where they named every jellyfish after superheroes, bedtime stories read twice because one time wasn't enough. Eli cooked dinner each night and rubbed Nathan's shoulders when the tension made his back ache. But Nathan could see the worry lines deepening around Eli's eyes too. Friends from their old college days texted support, but the silence from the rest of the family felt louder. Nathan's mother sent a single card that read only "praying for you," and he stared at it until the ink blurred. By the end of the first week he had started keeping a journal again, something he hadn't done since he was a scared teenager hiding his feelings for the boy who sat behind him in English class. Page after page filled with the same question. Am I really enough for him? The lawyer's office smelled of fresh coffee and old books. Sarah Klein, a sharp woman in her 40s who specialized in LGBTQ family law, slid a thick folder across the desk. "We have a strong case for appeal," she said. The judge's ruling ignored precedent and leaned on personal bias. "But we need to show the court the day-to-day reality of your family." Nathan nodded, though his stomach twisted. Showing the reality meant opening every corner of their lives. Bank statements, school records, even therapy notes from the year Liam had night terrors after a bad flu. Eli squeezed his knee under the table the same way he had in court. They had met in sophomore year at the University of Washington, Eli the quiet pre-med student who volunteered at the campus food bank, Nathan the loud architecture major who organized the first Pride float. Their first date had been terrible, rain-soaked burgers at Dick's Drive-In, but by the time they graduated they knew they were forever. Now forever was being measured in court dates and character witnesses. That evening they took Liam to Golden Gardens Park. The sun hung low over Puget Sound, turning the water gold. Liam ran ahead chasing seagulls, his laughter bouncing off the sand. Nathan watched him and felt the familiar ache rise in his throat. "Remember when we first brought him home?" Eli asked softly. Nathan did. The surrogate had handed over the tiny bundle wrapped in a blue blanket, and Nathan had cried so hard he could barely see. Eli had whispered, "We got this." And for 5 years they had. They had navigated toddler tantrums and potty training and the terrifying first day of preschool together. But now every laugh from Liam felt borrowed. Rebecca's lawyer had already requested a home visit, and Nathan kept imagining strangers judging the 2 toothbrushes in the master bathroom, the double-wide closet, the framed photo of the 3 of them at the Space Needle. Later, after Liam was asleep, Nathan and Eli sat on the back porch with a bottle of red wine they barely touched. "What if we lose?" Nathan asked, voice cracking for the first time since the ruling. Eli turned to him, eyes steady. "Then we fight again. And again. Because he's ours." But Nathan heard the fear underneath. He remembered the night Eli had proposed, not with a ring but with adoption papers for the baby they had been planning. They had celebrated with cheap champagne on the same porch, dreaming aloud about little league games and college tours. Now those dreams felt fragile. Nathan went inside and pulled out the journal again. He wrote about the first time Liam had called him Daddy instead of Nate. How the word had filled every empty space left by his own father's rejection. He wrote until his hand cramped, then closed the book and lay awake listening to Eli's even breathing beside him, wondering if love alone could ever be enough armor. The next week brought the home visit. The social worker was kind but thorough, asking questions about bedtime routines, discipline styles, and how they handled the topic of sexuality with a 5-year-old. Nathan answered honestly. Liam knew his family was different and that different was beautiful. But every note the woman scribbled felt like another brick in a wall being built between him and his son. When she left, Nathan stood at the window watching her drive away and felt the old shame from high school creep back in. The same shame that had made him date girls for 2 years just to please his parents. Eli wrapped arms around him from behind. "You were amazing in there." Nathan wanted to believe it. Instead he turned and buried his face in Eli's shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of cedarwood cologne and hospital soap from Eli's shifts at the children's clinic. For the first time he wondered if staying together was actually hurting Liam. The thought made him sick, but it wouldn't leave. Rebecca called on a Tuesday afternoon while Nathan was helping Liam build a Lego castle. "Mom's not doing well," she said without greeting. "She keeps asking why you won't just let us raise him the right way." Nathan stepped onto the porch so Liam wouldn't hear. "The right way?" he repeated, voice low. Rebecca sighed like he was the unreasonable one. "You know what I mean. 2 men can't give him everything a mother could. It's biology, Nate." He hung up before he said something he couldn't take back. Inside, Liam looked up with those big brown eyes that were so much like Nathan's own. "Daddy sad?" he asked. Nathan knelt and pulled him into a hug that lasted until the boy squirmed. "Never too sad for you, buddy." That night the betrayal hit harder. Their old friend Marcus, best man at their commitment ceremony, texted that Rebecca had reached out asking for honest testimony about Nathan's lifestyle. Marcus had refused, but the fact that she had even tried made Nathan feel exposed all over again. He drove to the waterfront alone after Eli went to bed, sat on a bench staring at the ferries gliding across the dark water. He thought about the night he came out to his parents. His father had said, "You're choosing this life over us," and walked out. 18 years later, the same words echoed in Rebecca's voice. Nathan pulled out his phone and stared at a photo of Liam blowing out birthday candles last month. Eli and Nathan on either side singing off-key. He whispered to the empty dock. I'm not choosing anything over him. He is my life. Back home, Eli was waiting on the couch with 2 mugs of tea. They talked until the sky lightened, about the first time they had argued over parenting styles, about the Saget's kind letters they still received, about how scared they both were but how much braver they became together. Eli reminded him of the night Liam had croup and they had taken turns walking the floor singing lullabies until dawn. That's the kind of father you are, Eli said. Nathan cried then, quiet tears that Eli wiped away without comment. The next morning Nathan woke with a new resolve. He called Sarah and told her he wanted to fight dirty if they had to. Every character witness, every pediatrician report, every video of him coaching Liam's t-ball team. He was done apologizing for loving his son. The following weekend they drove to the Olympic Peninsula for a family hike. Just the 3 of them. Liam rode on Nathan's shoulders most of the way, chattering about clouds that looked like dragons. At the top of the trail they sat on a log and shared sandwiches while the mountains rose around them like silent guardians. Eli took a picture of Nathan and Liam with the peaks behind them, and Nathan looked at the image later and saw something he hadn't noticed in weeks. His own smile looked real again. But the court date for the appeal loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon, and he knew the real fight was only beginning. The appeal hearing was set for July, and the pressure mounted daily. Nathan started having nightmares where he stood in an empty courtroom while Liam called for him from behind a glass wall. He woke gasping, Eli's hand already on his chest calming him. At work his boss had been understanding, but the missed deadlines were piling up. Nathan found himself sketching house designs at 3 in the morning, homes with 2 master bedrooms and big backyards, because creating something permanent felt like the only control he had left. Eli noticed and started bringing home takeout so Nathan could focus on Liam instead of dishes. Their friends organized a small fundraiser for legal fees, and the outpouring of support from the local LGBTQ community brought Nathan to tears again. People he barely knew sent gift cards and letters saying, "We see you. You're a good dad." But the doubt still whispered. One afternoon at the park a stranger saw Nathan helping Liam on the swings and asked, "Where's his mom?" Nathan answered politely, "He has 2 dads," and the man's polite smile faltered. Liam didn't notice, but Nathan carried the moment home like a bruise. That evening he sat Liam down and asked, "Does it ever bother you that you have 2 dads instead of a mom and dad?" Liam tilted his head, thinking hard. "No. You and Papa make the best pancakes. And you both come to my school plays. Tommy has only 1 dad and he says it's boring." The simple logic cracked something open in Nathan's chest. He pulled Liam into his lap and held him until the boy giggled and wiggled free. Eli came home from a long shift at the clinic and found them asleep on the couch. Liam curled against Nathan's chest. He snapped a quiet photo and later printed it for the fridge. "This is what the court needs to see," he said. Nathan nodded, but inside he was already planning his testimony. He wrote it out in the journal, page after page of memories. Teaching Liam to tie his shoes, staying up all night when the boy had chicken pox, dancing in the kitchen to silly songs. Each sentence was a brick in the wall he was building to protect his family. The betrayal from Rebecca still stung, but Nathan realized something important. He wasn't fighting her anymore. He was fighting the version of himself that still believed he had to prove he deserved to be a father. A surprise visit from Eli's parents helped too. They drove up from Portland with a new bike for Liam and hugs for both men. Eli's mother pulled Nathan aside in the kitchen and said, "You've been more of a father to that boy than some men ever are to their biological children. Don't let anyone dim that light." For the first time in weeks Nathan slept through the night. The appeal hearing day arrived under a sky so blue it almost hurt. Nathan wore the same gray suit he had worn to their commitment ceremony, Eli in navy beside him. Liam stayed with a trusted neighbor, but they had recorded a video of him saying, "I love both my daddies the most in the whole world. Just in case." Sarah presented witness after witness, Liam's pediatrician, his preschool teacher, even the surrogate who flew in from California to testify that she had chosen Nathan and Eli because of the love she saw between them. Rebecca's lawyer tried to paint Nathan as unstable, citing old social media posts and the fact that he had once taken anxiety medication after his father's death. Nathan sat straight, hands folded, heart hammering. When it was his turn to speak, Nathan stood at the podium and looked straight at the new judge. He didn't read from notes. He told the story of the night Liam was born and how he had counted every tiny finger and toe and promised him the world. He described teaching Liam to swim at Green Lake, the way the boys' laughter echoed across the water. He talked about the bedtime routine where they took turns reading and how Liam always asked for one more hug from both daddies. His voice never wavered, even when he admitted the fear that had kept him awake for weeks. "I'm not perfect," he said, "but I am his father in every way that matters. And no ruling can change the fact that my love for him is the most real thing in my life." The courtroom was silent when he sat down. Eli reached over and laced their fingers together so tightly it hurt. The judge called a short recess. In the hallway, Nathan leaned against the wall, exhausted but strangely light. Eli kissed his temple right there in public, not caring who saw. "You were incredible," he whispered. They waited 3 agonizing hours for the ruling. When the judge returned, he looked at Nathan directly. "Mr. Thompson, the court has reviewed the evidence and finds that the original ruling was based on bias rather than facts. Custody remains with both parents. The petition is denied." The words landed like sunlight after a long storm. Nathan felt his knees buckle, but Eli caught him. Outside on the courthouse steps, they called the neighbor and put Liam on speaker. When they told him he was coming home forever, the boy cheered so loud the whole street probably heard. Nathan cried openly this time, not from fear but from relief so deep it felt like breathing for the first time in months. The celebration was quiet and perfect. They ordered pizza, let Liam stay up late, and danced in the living room to the same silly songs they always played. Nathan watched Eli spin their son around and felt the last pieces of doubt finally settle into something solid: pride. The next morning, Rebecca showed up unannounced. She stood on the porch looking smaller than Nathan had ever seen her. "I was wrong," she said simply. "Mom saw the news coverage and she cried. We both did. I thought I was protecting him, but I was just repeating what Dad taught us." Nathan invited her in. They sat at the kitchen table while Liam showed her his newest Lego creation. When she left, she hugged Nathan tightly and whispered, "You're a better father than I ever gave you credit for." Summer stretched long and golden. Nathan returned to work with a lighter step. He and Eli took Liam camping in the Cascades, roasting marshmallows and telling stories under stars, so bright they seemed close enough to touch. One night around the fire, Liam asked, "Are you and Papa married like in the movies?" Eli smiled and pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, the rings they had never quite gotten around to exchanging legally. "We're going to make it official next spring," he said. "And you're going to be the ring bearer." Liam's whoop of joy echoed through the trees. Nathan finished the journal that night by the campfire light. The last page read simply, "I was never unworthy. I was always enough." He closed the book and looked across the flames at Eli and Liam curled together in a sleeping bag, and he knew the truth in his bones. Love had never been the question. It had always been the answer. Months later, on a bright Saturday in the same park where everything had once felt so fragile, Nathan watched Liam chase a soccer ball while Eli cheered from the sidelines. The 3 of them were just another family enjoying the sun, and that ordinary miracle felt like the biggest victory of all. Nathan turned to Eli and said, "Thank you for never letting me forget who I am." Eli kissed him softly, right there on the grass, and the world kept turning like it always had. Only now Nathan walked through it with his head high and his heart wide open. True or false? A gay man's unconditional love for his child can truly erase all societal doubts about his ability to be a father?